Welcome to the best of first-person episodes from Phantoms and Monsters. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads.
Reptilian Confrontation, Nuevalos, Spain. Hello, I would like to tell you about an experience I had in 1954 while working with the U.S. Naval Engineers at Zaragoza Air Base near Zaragoza, Spain. This was to be a refurbished NATO facility. I was a contractor, 24 years old and working my father's construction firm, and hired by the DoD. This was my first time away from the United States. I had another fellow with me who had worked for my father for a couple of years. Only a few people knew of my experience, my wife who is deceased, and two close friends who have also passed away. I have read some of the stories of other people you have published. I thought that I could add my story to the record. After I had been in Spain for several weeks, I decided to take in the surroundings. I was told by some of the locals that the Monasterio de Pedra near Nuevalos would be an excellent place to visit. The monastery was about 60 miles away, so I decided it would be an enjoyable day trip. When I arrived, I met a young lady who offered to show me around the complex. It was a very hot day, early August, so we took numerous breaks along the way. As the afternoon waned and the early evening approached, it was time for me to head back towards Zaragoza. The young lady mentioned that there was a very nice inn not far from the monastery. If I wanted to stay the night, then get an early start in the morning. So I decided to stay the night, maybe do some exploring that evening. The inn was very rustic, though quite comfortable. I had dinner outside on the back patio. It was an excellent evening. Though it was dusk, I could still see the terrain not far from the inn. There was a vineyard and a small lavender meadow behind the inn which led to a series of rocky outcrops. I thought that I would take a look around, but I first asked the owner if it was okay to do so. I walked through the vineyard and reached a small pond, which had a loud chorus of frogs. By this time it was dark, but there was a fair amount of available moonlight. But I still needed a flashlight to see where I was going. I walked around the pond and started to cross a small bridge over a narrow stream. As I walked over the bridge, I noticed something run through the water about 50 feet upstream. There was enough moonlight to where I could make out an upright shape. This thing was heading toward the high rocks, though I lost sight of it. I stood silent for about 5 minutes. It was eerie because the frogs were now quiet. The only sound was coming from the direction of the rocks, and the noise was very strange. It sounded like a guttural yak 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 series that would pause for a few seconds, then repeat. It would also fade in and out. After a few minutes, it stopped. I had no idea what it was. I crossed the bridge and started to slowly approach the rocks. As I came to the rock face, there was a fairly well-worn trail on the ground along the edge. I walked further until I reached an opening in the rock face. I pointed the flashlight inside and saw that it was a grotto about 15 feet deep and high enough for me to stand in. The floor of the grotto was littered with small animal bones, so I figured that there were predators about. Most likely fox. I continued on the trail until I heard the yak 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 sound again, and it was very close. I instantly stopped walking and started searching around me with the flashlight. Just then, some gravel landed on me, and the loud yak 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 sound was coming from above me. I quickly looked up and pointed the flashlight. There was a creature standing on a small ledge about 15 feet away, staring at me with yellow eyes reflecting back. It was screaming yak 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 in quick constant rhythm. This was the most ghastly thing I've ever witnessed. It was standing on 2 legs and was about 4 to 5 feet tall. I've read about reptilian encounters on your blog. Well, I think this may have been one. It was dark in color and had arms like a human. The face looked like that of a lizard, resembling that of an iguana. After a few seconds it leaped off the ledge onto the trail, swiftly running on 2 legs in the opposite direction. It was then that I noticed a long tail as it moved away from me. I quickly made my way back toward the inn, and directly to my room. I laid in bed thinking about this creature the entire night. I was terrified to look out my window, fearing that it followed me back to the inn. Early in the morning I checked out and drove back to Zaragoza. I have no proof to my experience other than my word. But I now believe that this was a reptilian creature. HY.
Ouija board and black-robed reptilians. This story, I'm just gonna preface it with this, it's the gospel truth. This happened to me, and this is one of the reasons you should not mess with a Ouija board. Put your Ouija boards away, people, get rid of them. Anyway, story is, I'm coming back from Florida with my wife. We stop in St. Mary's, Ohio. We had friends there. They lived in this house. This house was 4 stories, 150 years old. Stone, beautiful, full of antiques, a gorgeous place. It was known to be haunted, of course. So I got questioning them on the house, what the house was doing. And stories came up, what was going on. The daughter said there was lots of noises when she would go to take a shower, on stairways, invisible people on stairways. Then the Ouija board came up. Turns out, at one point there was 30 kids after school that would land at their house, and they would all be working the Ouija board. Things just got crazy, shaking chandeliers, the whole deal. The mother says, that is it. It goes away. No more. So, it goes away and it never came back out again. So, of course, I had to say, look, I've never seen one work. I'd like to see something happen. Could we try? She hummed and hawed and she was like, alright. She went and got it. I sat down across from the daughter, her name was Renee. We put it on our laps and put our finger on it. Immediately it started moving. Slowly. Nice pace. And like I said, Renee commented about sounds when she took a shower, so I said, who in the house makes sounds when Renee is showering? Supposedly a 10-year-old boy came on, and he said he liked to watch Renee undress. I can understand. If I was a 10-year-old boy, I'd want to watch Renee undress too. So anyway, we spoke to the little boy for a little while. All of a sudden he said, I have to go. We said, where are you going? He said, it's coming. We said, Iho's coming. He said, he's coming. All of a sudden the planchette stopped dead. We looked at each other and we were like, what is going on here? All of a sudden, it took off like wildfire. We had to work to keep our fingers on it. It was almost impossible to get answers from it because it was moving so fast. And at some point, it would pull away from your fingers, and the minute it lost your fingers it would stop dead. And the minute our fingers would grab it and off it would go again. And it was just ridiculous. My wife was a real naysayer. She was actually saying a lot of stuff she shouldn't say. We were getting the idea, it was getting angry. I said, stop speaking, it is getting really ticked off. So we said, look, we don't want to talk to you anymore. You are not friendly. Go away. We want to speak to someone else. Then it would lie. It would come back and say it was other people, but we knew it was it because of the way the planchette moved. It was 100 miles an hour. So anyway, at that point the mother, Pat, said, okay, you know what, we've seen enough. I was like, you know what, I've seen it work. I am impressed, it works. We put the Ouija board away. So, that evening we went to bed. We stayed at their house that night. So anyway, I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was not as if you woke up and you were groggy and tired. I opened my eyes and I was wide awake. Now I didn't have a clock near, but I'm gonna say, I told my wife it was 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's when that stuff always happens. I leaned up on my elbow, and this is gospel truth, there was an 8-foot, cloaked creature standing in the corner of the room. It was not facing me, it was facing off to the right. I could not see its face, it was blocked by this cloak. It had 2, approximate 2-foot tall imp-type creatures that were kind of moving in and out of its robes on the floor. They almost had a reptilian-like look to them, and they did have black cloth. Now here's the other weird part that you really gotta picture. As they went through this thing's robes, they did not move the robe, they went through the robe as if it were a waterfall. The robe just kind of disappeared around the creatures. The creature went through, popped out the other side and continued its little motion. It looked like death, actually, minus the sickle. I looked at it in disbelief, and I thought, dear God, what is that? And I laid my head down. I stuck my face into my wife's back and I said to myself, I am not moving until I see daylight. And the next thing I did see was daylight, and I looked, and the thing was gone, and I swear to God, that is gospel truth. I'm telling you, that is the last time I used the Ouija board. I am never touching one again. Female reptilian in Philadelphia playground. In 1975 or 1976 I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. My elementary school class went on a class trip to Smith Memorial Playground and Playhouse. We boarded the buses and headed to the Fairmount Park section of the city. Smith Playground has been around since the 1800s. It has the world's largest wooden slide board. Our class arrived for the day's fun, sliding the slide and having fun with other school kids that were there also on a class trip. Myself and some of my classmates became bored, so we decided to make our own fun. We scaled a fence to another section of the playground. There we came upon a swimming pool area. In this new area we can see that the pool haven't been used in years. There was so many leaves in the pool that its color was dark green. We began throwing rocks in the pool until we again became bored, so we scaled another fence. This new area put us out in the park. There was a pathway to our right. As we began to walk down pathway, I heard a female voice from behind me say, "Stop, children." When I looked back, there was this green lady hanging from this tree. When she came out of the tree, I can see that she had scaly skin like a lizard. Her skin had a design pattern which covered her from top to bottom, as if her skin was also her clothes. She walked on 2 feet, and she had a small slit for a mouth. When she spoke to us, we can hear her in our heads. Her mouth never opened or moved. We hot-tailed it back over the fences, and I have never been back. I cannot remember all my classmates that was there. After 30 years of questions, I found one classmate that remembered this incident. There were probably 5 or 6 of us. Also, through some research, I found an article from the Times Daily, Google News Archive dated 10/6/1959, which describes an incident about a green lady chasing school children with a knife. This does not fit the description nor the same green lady that appeared to us. I witnessed something truly amazing and out of this world. I feel very blessed to have experienced this and truly lucky that I can finally share my story with professional people instead of the non-believers.
Reptilian in Walmart. It was fall of 1998. I suddenly found myself separated from my husband and with 2 preteen children to support. Living in a small Kansas town, there was very limited employment options. I needed to remain close to home to attempt to keep a handle on preteen adolescents and still keep a roof over our heads. It was convenient when I saw an ad for workers at our local Walmart. The store was converting to a superstore and needed staff 24/7. So I applied. I got hired on as a department manager. I got dug in. I laid out the department, and everything on the shelves on the day of the opening, including the shelves themselves, was put there by my 2 hands. The new store opened and school had started, so I tried to keep my hours mostly to accommodate that, but weekend work was mandatory. Usually I got to work early, there was only light register staff, and I'd be the first department manager on the floor. It was early days for the new store, but the majority of the setup crew had departed the job site. One morning I arrived even earlier than usual. I had timed in and was just about to leave the freight room when a young boy, about the age of my own 2 kids, rushed past me, nearly knocking me over. He started sputtering something about how his ID had been lost, and he had to see CCTV to see who picked it up. The first thing weird about this is that I didn't know this kid. My kids grew up in this town, and being a small town, I thought I knew all the kids from town and all parts around. The second weird thing was, back in 1998, it would be very unusual for any small town preteen to have an ID of any kind. I told him I knew nothing about it, but he could follow me back to the office to inquire. There was only one lady back in the office. She was a member of the setup team and had been responsible for hiring me. I left him with her after a short explanation and went out on the floor to begin my day. But I'd forgotten my scanner. So, I turned heel and went back into the office area to get one. Immediately I could hear this kid becoming very aggressive with my co-worker. He was ranting on, insisting that he view the CCTV tape immediately. The human resource officer was trying to calmly explain to him that only security staff and the store manager could view it, and she would pass on his concern. Worried about my coworker's safety, I crept closer to the door, which remained open. His back was to me, but looking past him I could clearly see her white and shocked face. The boy, sensing my presence, swung around and stormed past me and, I assume, flew out of the building. "Did you see his eyes? Did you see his eyes?" she exclaimed. Though in fact I said nothing. I think I was basically gobsmacked. And as it turned out, I never again spoke to her. That was the last time I saw her. When I inquired after her, I was told she was transferred, though others whispered she had been fired by home office. The third weird thing was, look into the eye of a snake, and you will know what I saw as the boy fled by me. You are welcome to use this story, but please do not use my name. This is a true story and detailed to the best of my memory. Thank you, Jay.
This is Lon Strickler. If you like this program, It would help us if you would give it a thumbs up. Then subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notification when we upload new first-person encounters. We have many more to come very soon. And by the way, if you have a suggestion or an experience of your own, please leave a comment.